It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Jen Cohen as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it is great to have you in studio with us today. We got to say goodbye to another member of our community. We've had several shows like this. Cottonwood City Manager Doug Bartosh is retiring.
Yes, I am
Congratulations.
retiring. Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
I think it's great that you get to retire. Steve Scourger was in here from Silent Witness. He's retiring, and so I've had, I think this is the third or fourth person now that I've had come in this year.
It's catching.
That I've worked with over a period of time that I've gotten to know that, they're saying, see ya.
Yeah.
Time to go. I'll probably never talk to you again after today.
I thought you'd have me back at least 3 or 4 more times.
Yes, he's going to become you'll become one of those professional consultants. We'll have you come in and we'll say, Doug, what would you do in a case like this?
True.
Well, what are they going to do in a case like this? So, Doug Bartosh is leaving. You've been here for how many years now?
14 years.
14 years in the city of Cottonwood.
That's amazing.
Let's go back in time. Tell us about your careers, because I was talking to you last week, setting this up, or the week before that, getting it set up to have you come in and do the show. I told you I was going to, early this year, I told you I was going to have you come in and do a retirement show. And you mentioned that you've had kind of a gypsy lifestyle when it comes to careers.
Yeah, I mean, I started my career in Southern California. I started, actually, my career was really law enforcement. I spent 33 years in law enforcement and started in Southern California with a municipality. Decided to go get my education, so I went to work for the University of California Police Department. Stayed there for about 9 years, and then came out here to Arizona State University, where I eventually became the police chief, and then got a great offer to go to Scottsdale PD. Was there for 11 years, eventually becoming the chief, and then came up here, was the police chief for 3 years, and then unfortunately, the city manager at the time, Brian Mickelson, died unexpectedly, and so I thought, let me try city management. So I've been the city manager here in Cottonwood for the last 11 years.
I want to ask you about that, too, how you decide all of a sudden. We'll get to that. Police chief to city manager, because that, to me, it seems like a very different job. But let's go back. What made you get into law enforcement to begin with? And when can you tell me what year that would have been?
That would have been 75.
75, and times have changed a lot since then.
Yeah, they have. I don't know. It'd be tough for me to go back and do the job now.
Yeah.
Much different role than it used to be. Although I think I always had the desire to get into law enforcement because I genuinely like people and I wanted to help people. I wanted to help kids in particular. And I don't think that's any different than what I hear from law enforcement people today. The young recruits who get into the business, they get into it for very honorable reasons.
It's a much more dangerous place, though, today than it was when you probably were getting into law enforcement.
Yeah, certainly politically. I think it's gotten somewhat safer from the standpoint that law enforcement has gotten much smarter about how they do things. Obviously, the equipment has gotten much better. The communication has gotten much better. Technology has improved. And so I think it's, from that standpoint, it's a better job, maybe a little bit safer. But there are much higher expectations of the community today, and it's tough to live up to. But, my hat's off to the cops out there working the street. They're doing it. They're doing a great job.
It's got to be a tough job. I mean, body cameras. We did a story, Williams Police Department is trying out a new camera that actually goes right on the handgun.
Right.
When it's unholstered, the camera automatically goes on just so we can prove that a law enforcement officer didn't shoot somebody that they weren't supposed to shoot. So,
yeah. And it's, I really saw it, it was a great advantage to the officer because so often throughout my career I've seen where people come in and make spurious complaints against police officers and you investigate them and find out that it's really not true. But this way the officer has that backup, that visual backup that, he did it right. It also encourages them to do it right.
Right.
Somebody's watching me all the time.
That's a good point too. Yeah. So, highlight of your law enforcement career. Then we'll jump into your city manager thing.
Oh,
what were some of the great things that transpired when you were in law enforcement for so long?
Yeah, you know, I think some of the experiences I had, I was really fortunate. I got to work the 1984 Olympics in L.A. At the UCLA campus, which was, you know, just an amazing experience. I got to see the Pope in the ASU Stadium and meet the Pope when I was there. I got to meet Ronald Reagan. I mean, I got to see every musical group I think I ever wanted to see when I was at ASU.
Security.
Because I was at the time, ASU was kind of the cultural center back in 1985 for the Phoenix area.
Okay.
So everything that went on at ASU. And so that was a great experience.
Okay.
The Super Bowl, the first time, you know, we had a professional football team come to Arizona, I was there. When I worked the '84 Olympics, it opened up a new venue for me where I was asked to become a part-time security consultant for the commissioner's office of Major League Baseball. And I worked that for about 10 years, where I would go to, you know, spring training games and rookie league games and provide security and eyes and ears for the commissioner's office of Major League Baseball.
Oh, wow, okay.
And actually went to all-star games and playoff games, and it was a great experience.
Kind of a side career inside your career.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, that's
absolutely.
nice.
It was a real honor.
Wow, okay. Cottonwood highlights.
You know,
how long were you? Let's go. How long were you police chief in Cottonwood?
3 years.
Okay, it didn't seem like it was a super long time, but you made an impact in just a few years.
No, you know, it was challenging. When I first got here, there had been 6 homicides, drug-related homicides, and obviously the biggest one was the meth-related vehicle accident down on 260.
Right.
But we also had a child run over due to somebody who was on cocaine backing over them. And then we had a really gruesome homicide in the apartment complex right behind the police department.
Right, I remember that.
And it was like, you know, God, I thought I was coming to a nice, quiet, small town. But we were all in the grip of the methamphetamine craze.
We were.
And so, you know, fortunately, Pat Spence, the chief before me, had talked Pant into moving one of their teams over here. We really went after drugs, really focused on getting the community involved, crime prevention. And as you'll well remember, I teamed up with Sheila Polk, who was in the process of creating Mad Force.
Yeah.
Right. And just a lot of community education. You'll probably remember the posters, the faces of meth.
The parades.
The parades.
The parades. I remember all that
famous
stuff.
Parades.
Yeah.
And, you know, it really formed the model for how we deal with substance abuse in Yavapai County.
One of the big turning points on that one right there, too, was when Sheila Polk got the automatic 5 to 15 years if you were caught transporting or selling methamphetamine in Yavapai County. It's statewide now, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, but it was just Yavapai County. So I used to tag all the stories that way because it was like, this is what we're trying to put out there, is that, okay, if you get caught driving it around or selling it, it's 5 to 15 years automatic. There is no first, second, third strike thing, and I thought that was a really good thing to do.
You know, and I think the other thing that I really focused on, which you do in law enforcement, is quality of life. And one of the things that we talked about in law enforcement back there was the broken windows theory. That if you're, you know, if your neighborhoods were run down, there were junk cars, broken windows, it invited crime in. And when I first got here, the presence of graffiti was visible. I mean, you saw it. So we went to work on that. Required that people removed it within 24 hours. Did go after the neighborhoods that most needed the attention and went in there with our officers, got the community involved. And Old Town was one of them. Old Town was the meth center of the Verde Valley, just about. And the Sundial was the epitome of it. We had responded there 93 times in a period of 6 months.
Wow.
And so there were things that we specifically went after, and we ended up dropping the crime rate by 45% in a year's period of time.
See, that's all it takes, a little bit of work. We got to take a break. All right?
I'm aware of that.
Cottonwood City Everything, Doug Bartosh is in studio today. He's retiring. This is Countywide. Stick around. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Verde Valley in Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
How I define making? In the broadest possible terms, it is making something extant in the world that didn't exist. Everybody who's ever made anything is bringing something into fruition for a reason, and that act in and of itself makes us stewards of our culture. It's something that we're talking about. It's a response. Actually, it's telling a story. That's really what it is. And I include everything that could be made: painting, sculpture, welding, all of that.
Yellow is positive.
When a kid gets their hands on the world and learns that they can make their fantasy play, that they can make their reality, that's power. And as far as I'm concerned, everyone should feel that kind of power. There we go. If there's something that interests you to bring into the world, that's fantastic. Go figure out how to do it. Go tell your own story. There it is. And so I want to know why you make. Let's go.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
150 over 90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
So it was a short period.
Welcome back to Countywide. Sitting down with Cottonwood City Manager Doug Bartosh, former Cottonwood City Police Chief. I almost introduced you at the beginning as Chief Doug Bartosh, because I'm just so used to calling you that. We were just talking about Marisol Gonzalez's homicide and how it's solved, and there's going to be a trial this next spring on that one. Yeah, it's just when you were here for a few years, yeah, the crime rate dropped, and the whole MAT Force thing got kicked into gear. And I remember methamphetamine just about disappeared. We've only got so much time to sit down and talk to Doug today, so I want to switch gears, okay, from law enforcement to city manager. Now, you made that switch, and it was after 3 years of being. Why? Why would you do that? I mean, what made you think, oh, I'm a police chief, I'm going to be a city manager?
Well,
they seem like two different jobs.
Yeah, a big part of it was I'd been in law enforcement for, like I said, 33 years. When I left Scottsdale, I didn't leave under the best of conditions. They had hired a new city manager, and her and I didn't get along, and I ended up having to leave. And I thought, God, I don't want to go through another city manager change because I don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
And I had a great relationship with Brian, and so I thought, hey, why not put in for it? And the council was pleased with what I had done with the police department, and so they gave me a chance. And 11 years later, I'm finally leaving on my own terms.
Okay, let's jump ahead, because it's got to be a difficult job to jump into. But after 33 years in law enforcement, you kind of, it doesn't take long probably to find your way into that and get going on the job. Some of the feathers in the cap in the 11 years, because you did that for a long time now.
Well, and again, I think
lots happened in Cottonwood.
It starts with, I mean, it's amazing how much has happened, and I mean, it has to do with a great team. I mean, I had a great city council, people who really supported, and we all had a like vision. Diane Jones, even though her and I started off a little rough, I mean, we became a great team. And then I had great people that worked with me. I had Jody Fanning, who came in. Dan Luder was a little bit controversial, but he built a water system that is second to none out there.
Dan was a real straight shooter, too.
He was.
You asked him something, he just told you.
Yeah, and sometimes I think that played against him, but he was a bright guy, willing to think outside the box, and did a great job for us, and built, like I said, a first-class water system here that is very reliable.
I want to hit Old Town for sure before we're done with you today. We've got like 4 minutes to talk about Old Town. Old Town, Cottonwood, when I moved here and I was 13, 14 years old, mid-'80s, nothing was going on down there. And now it is the jewel of Cottonwood right now.
Well, and again, I think everybody always saw it as a diamond in the rough. This is a tourist destination. And Brian saw it, with the new landscaping, streetscape that he brought in. And I think there were two things. One, we needed to clean it up. And so we went to work on that. Gardner's Recycling, it was an eyesore. No development was going to occur or redevelopment was going to occur as long as we had that in Old Town.
Sure.
And so we worked with Tim. Rudy Stottleman was his representative. Rudy did a great job, and we ended up just buying Tim out and, moving him out of Old Town, which was no longer a fit for him. And the other thing was the sundial. As I indicated, it was in shambles. And
it's sketchy.
We worked with the owner at the time. He eventually sold, and now it's a booming business down there. But ultimately, you needed a hook. You needed somehow to get people into Old Town. And I had a friend of mine who came into Old Town, lived in Arizona all his life, never been in Old Town. He says, "This is unbelievable." He says, "Why don't more people come down here?" And I said, "Well, we need some way to get them down here. They all go through the bypass." He goes, "You used to be the police chief. Why don't you just block it off?" And
force them.
Yeah, but anyway, I came out of Southern California. I'm a wine enthusiast. I'd seen a place, California, the Central Coast, just redevelop because of wine. And my wife and I were cruising Page Springs one day when I first got up here and came across Page Springs Winery. And thought, well, I've tasted wine about 15 years before in southern Arizona and wasn't very good. But we went into Page Springs, met Eric Glomsky, who was working the tasting room at that time, and tried some of the wine, and it was very good. And so I got to know Eric really well. I got to know Maynard, recognized that it was a growing industry. And, just began to think, this is an opportunity. And looking at a little town like Los Olivos and Santa Ynez and what wine has done for that little town, I thought the same thing could happen here. And fortunately, we got together with the wine industry, the chamber, the college, everybody who could potentially have a stake in developing tourism in the Cottonwood area, and said, how can we help make the wine industry grow? And so out of that came the Verde Valley Wine Consortium. And fortunately, Eric and Maynard opened up their cooperative kind of project, which was Arizona Stronghold Vineyards. They opened up the first tasting room in Old Town. Pretty soon behind that became Pillsbury, and then Burning Tree, and it was just history after that. Lana Tolleson, who was at the chamber at the time, began the Verde Valley Wine Trail. Tom Schumacher, who was a great partner, began putting on wine classes at the college, and the classes were filled every time.
And it grows and grows and grows.
Grows and grows and grows, and pretty soon we're one of the top 10 destinations, travel destinations by CNN. And what was the name of I can't think of the name of the group at that time.
Think of it. We got to take a break.
Okay, I will think of it. We'll come back.
Okay, yeah. Doug Bartosh is retiring, Cottonwood City Manager. Stick around, Countywide back in just a couple minutes.
appears these hot ashes are about to be dumped, which could possibly start a wildfire. How will Smokey deal with such a hot situation? The garden hose defense. Next, a thorough stir. Then another spray. And finally, feeling if the ashes are cool.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, yes, the selfie. A ritual practiced so frequently with this tribe, but not so much by Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Being prepared is a part of who you are, but it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
Welcome back. We got off topic, and did we ever remember what we were going to talk about? You were going to say something.
Yeah, I can't remember the travel show, but
we're,
obviously it's now recognized as a travel destination.
And then there's been road projects in the area while you've been city manager, and the wastewater treatment plant, Riverfront Park. There's been a lot of different projects that we can't hit them all. We just can't hit them all. I could keep you here for an extra half hour or so.
Sure, let's do
it. He doesn't want to do that.
You can't, yeah.
You know, there's only so much meat you can take. What's in store for Doug Bartosh? As you ride your hog off into the sunset.
You know, probably the two things I'll stay involved in that I've committed to is mat force, and then I teach a class to law enforcement called What You Do Matters, Lessons from the Holocaust. Those are the two things I've committed to, but basically for the first 6 months, absolutely nothing, just spending time with my wife, my grandkids, my kids.
How many grandkids?
And enjoying life. I have 3 grandkids, and fortunately they live about a block from me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
okay, so they're just down the street from Grandpa.
Yeah, we're very much a part of their life, and I love them dearly. So, no, that's about it, Paul. I'm, you know, and I'll you know, just watch the city. There's a lot of things that I wish would have got completed that I think are on the way to getting started and completed, and I want to see that done.
I imagine you'll still be dipping your toes in the water here and there a little bit, huh? Maybe so. Maybe. You never know.
Who knows? Yeah.
You never know.
Who knows?
You might get bored. I asked you before the show, what kind of hobbies do you have? And, you know, you got to work on that hobby thing.
Yeah, I know. I do work out a lot, and I don't know. It's just, I need to take 6 months just to kind of recharge and figure out what I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah.
So.
Nice. I like that. I like that. All right. We've got a minute left. Anything you want to say? Anything at all you want to say to the folks out there in Cottonwood?
Well, you know, the thing that brought me to this community, and I didn't originally plan to stay here. I thought I'd come up here and work for a while and go back down to the valley. And the thing that kept me here was the people. I love the people here. They were very kind, generous, polite. You know, this was still an area where if kids passed in front of you in the store, they'd say, "Excuse me." And it's just been a great community. And I think that's why my kids followed me up here. I love the people here. The staff I worked with was second to none. They've been fantastic, have done a great job, and made me look good. And so my thanks to them and to the community, and certainly the city councils I've worked with.
When's your last day?
February 1st.
February 1st.
And we have a big party on February 2nd, so You're invited.
You won't be there, though, because you're done. Okay.
They made me come back, though.
Well, thanks for everything you've done. Thanks for being a good
Paul.
friend to us here at the station and myself. And just it's always been easy to get a hold of Doug Bartosh and get him on the phone and find out what you want to find
Well,
out.
and certainly you guys have been fantastic partners with programs like this. You know, filming the council meetings and the Christmas Light Project. I mean, you guys have been fantastic partners.
We got a good working.
So thank you.
Good working thing, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's all we got time for.
You bet.
That's it. We're done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm through.
Happy retirement.
Thank you.
That's today's Countywide. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we will talk to you again next time.